Uh, so you made that noise just as I hit started recording. So that's now immortalized. Well done.
Dang it. Well, these chickens came to attack, and no. In our
uh,
last session,
in the last our hero when we last left our heroes.
there was a storm that was beginning to hit. We were coming out from the mountain, basically, and trying to get back into the guild hall. There's a letter from Bartholomew the butler telling us about the flesh smith and inviting us to a city called Araghest, which was 3 weeks travel by boat. So we had to decide whether we were chartering a boat from the coast and then maybe walking down from the coastline. The area we're going to is nestled in the middle of a canyon. And so Nori told us that we were going to head there. So the next morning, we went to Nari to um, go shopping, and then Bright's Death had the actual scroll, and there were all sorts of quests there, and there was something called the Phoenix Guild. We were invited into the Phoenix Guild, so we can use the facility there. But the bids take us to Iomide in Chasewater, and then we at one point we jumped on a boat. We went on the Medici ship. I think I'm not pronouncing it right. I typed it out. Um, but we were trying to disrupt the supply of peaswort, which is basically we're on a trafficking ship headed toward the middle of this coast, basically this canyon between warring civilizations. And yeah, we got into a battle on the boat, and we beat the water spirits, and a few of us jumped into the water, and now we are finishing up the boat ride. So I'm not sure where we're at in terms of time frame, but I think we got a little bit more time in the boat, and then we'll hit land, and I think we're headed to a desert of Aileron's people, right? Like this is where the land where he comes from. Is that right?
Okay, so Araghest is a city on the edge of the Gold Waste Desert. It's not a city any of you have been to. It is renowned for its black market, so you can buy anything in Araghest. Um, it is linked trade-wise to various other cities. It's kind of in sort of a no man's land, and so it's kind of a law unto itself. Um, does anybody remember on the ship the two newlyweds? Did they give you a reward of any kind? Did anybody make a note of that?
I
She
gave it back.
Oh, that's
the locket, the flower locket.
that's correct. Yeah, you gave it back. You didn't want to keep that. Okay. Give me one sec. I'm just flipping through some of my notes. This is the problem with waiting 3 weeks between sessions. I'm just like, I don't remember. Yeah, one sec.
I hope my recap was okay.
Oh yeah, it was brilliant. I just need to remember where I'm taking you next. So Alaron, so
Yes.
you don't come from the Gold Waste. You come from further north in more clement lands. But your family does have holdings here in Araghest because your family is a trading mercantile family. You do have a small warehouse here and probably some other properties, if I remember correctly. Do 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 do. Yeah, one sec.
I'm glad I'm not from a desert region. I'm a pale ginger. That would be awful.
Oh god, no, that would be awful. No, you come from further north where the forests and kind of farmlands and stuff are. Not that far from where you've just left, actually. Um, what on earth? I have lost one of my folders of stuff. Okay. Alright, there we go. Got my notes. That'll help. Sorry, I always end up doing something right up until the last second, so I don't sit here and do loads of preparation. Okay, so for context for the notes, Alaron has received a message, ostensibly from his old tutor, who was his alchemist tutor, taught him everything he knows about alchemy and chemistry and science and the arts, basically. She was a private tutor hired to teach this one child. She had approached the family, claiming that she saw talent in the lad, and offered to teach him privately. Whereupon he was sort of introduced to the alchemy and scholarly societies around his homeland, and there were always rumours of an ex-student of Nimriel's who had a hand in some very black arts once she had finished teaching him, one of which was flesh smithing, which is the act of creating homunculi using living flesh. It had always been under something of a shroud, and Alaron had never asked Nimriel about it, kind of there being a sort of unspoken understanding that it was a private matter. However, not long before he met the rest of you, she had disappeared, maybe 6 months to a year beforehand, under very mysterious circumstances. One day she had packed everything up and left, leaving very little in the way of indication of where she'd gone. Therefore, it's a little unusual to receive a note from her to the family home stating that she had settled quite happily, continuing her work in Araghest. The family butler, Bartholomew, had some concerns about it, and although he'd taken the concerns to Alaron's father had basically wanted nothing to do with that and said it's her business. But Bartholomew, being relatively friendly with Nimriel, thought perhaps it wasn't her writing, or there was something odd about the letter itself, and so in an act of mild disobedience he handed the letter to the head of Alaron's family's house guard, and asked him to find Alaron and see what he thought. Hence Tormin tracked you down in the throes of the storm to hand Alaron the letter, whereupon Alaron deciphered the secret message, Fleshsmith, within the writings itself, which has led you here to Araghest in the hopes of finding Nimriel. Is everybody clear on that?
Crystal.
Yes. Excellent. Okay. Brilliant. The other, as Woody pointed out, the other thread that you have going on at the moment is that the paladins of Iamide at Chasewater have asked if you should come into contact with anything that might lead you to distributors of the drug Peaswort, to shut it down, or at least stem its flow, as they are becoming overrun with the violent behaviour of addicts in Chasewater, and they fear it might spread. So that's where you are. You arrive in Araghest to the kind of muddy, swirling waters of a desert port, into a relatively busy docks. This city isn't as large as Emberparch, which is the larger of the two desert cities that are focused on trade. Emberparch is maybe 2 or 3 days travel north of here, further into the canyons between two warring city-states. Araghest is sort of the portal to the outside world that this little desert region kind of considers itself free. It's an imposing city. Let me move you to here. Composed of spires and huge tented areas where bazaars and auctions take place on a daily basis. All around the docks and further into the city are carts and various different beasts of burden dragging or carrying cargo here, there and everywhere. There are warehouses mixed in with residential buildings. There are trade offices and diplomatic offices nestled in amongst inns and houses of ill repute everywhere. Alaran, you have the address of your family's holdings in Araghest, but having never been here before, that is literally all you have. You haven't been able to tap into your father's resources here, given that you're not technically supposed to be here. But you do suspect that anybody working for your father will know who you are.
Right.
Okay. So, given that, you step off the ship, are waved farewell and good luck by the captain, the imposing woman known as Winnet, and yeah, fared well. What would you like to do now that you have arrived? You're all stood, incidentally, kind of looking a little bit in awe at this city, and people are kind of bumping into you and getting a bit annoyed at the fact that you're just kind of standing and not moving with the crowd.
I'm going to make sure that my purse strings are very tight.
Okay, sounds sensible.
Although, if somebody bends down to try to pickpocket me, yeah, it'd kind of be obvious.
I didn't really pickpocket a gnome. I'm just
They'd
gonna
have
lay
to
on
pick
the
me up
floor
first. Anybody got an idea where we should head? Anybody want to take a direction and we start walking and look at street signs? I'm open to ideas.
We could look for lodgings. We don't really know how long we'll be here.
Right, or a tavern. Maybe we can ask for information.
That would be lovely. I could always use a drink.
That's priorities. That's what that is.
Do you think there's a large amount of hat sellers here? I mean, you could buy anything, right?
The peoples of Araghest are many and varied. You can, just from where you're standing on the docks, you can see half-orcs, elves, many humans. There's even one or two gnomes and halflings around in the crowd. And with that amount of diversity comes the diversity of costume that you might expect. There are even a couple of humans from the far northern frozen wastes that are still steadfastly clinging to their cultural garb despite sweating profusely through the many layers of seal fur and oilskin that they're wearing. So yes, hats are almost certainly on offer somewhere in the city.
Okay, so my vote is wherever we go, I would really appreciate it if everybody keep an eye out. I'm feeling like a floppy hat. I don't know why. I really want something large and floppy. If you see one, can you let me know? Because I'd like to buy it.
It's practical. It's good for shade in this fucking heat.
Alaran, could you roll
I wasn't even thinking of that, but sure.
do you have local knowledge or knowledge local, Alaran?
Let me check. It's not trained, but I have it.
Yeah, could you roll knowledge local for me? I figured you probably would since you have alchemist have all the knowledges. Right. What was that?
I got a 12.
12. Okay. In terms of lodgings, you know your family has a house here. Your father has stayed here on occasion. He talks about how cramped it is. But given that your estate covers nearly a mile, that could mean anything. He almost certainly doesn't let it out, and therefore that you do know that might be worth chasing up. But you don't know where
All
it is.
right, I'll keep a lookout for that.
just look in the city.
I have no idea where that would be.
You know where the family.
How big is
warehouses
this
are.
place? It's kind of hard to hide something that big, isn't it?
It's not huge, and it's almost certainly going to be it's like a summer home, but not for recreation, but for business. Um,
So
when
it'll be near shops.
everything is mixed in with everything here in Araghest. The
I
the only lead you have,
I'm sorry, I can only see like, you know,
knees.
from where I'm standing. Yeah. I don't have a good view at the moment.
um, Alaron, the
And
only
Spot
lead
won't
you
let me
have
climb
is
on
that
him.
you
I've
know where the
tried.
family warehouses should be. You have an address for those. Um,
I tend to have a good kind of sense of bearing. I could roll geography.
yes. Geography, is that a skill? Oh, knowledge local.
Woo!
It's enough.
Ooh, nice. Okay, so geography will. So what you know is that you're in a canyon.
Yes.
Um, you know that the canyon was worn away originally by an ancient river. Uh, no longer here, probably led out to the port itself into the sea. And that over the time, winds have eroded the canyon out to provide the steep cliffs that the city now sits amongst.
Sounds like I rolled geology.
With geography is knowledge local is what you would have been looking for. Geography would give you a kind of lay of the land type situation. What you do know with a roll that high is that there's a good chance, just out of interest, that you probably are aware that because the city was carved out by a river, uh, and that the river is no longer evident, it probably now runs underground, which suggests a large cavern network underneath. Which seems to be evidenced by vents that are kind of every so often you can kind of spot a vent in the street or in a wall somewhere that appears to be kind of belching out steam or black smoke that probably the city's blacksmiths and things are underneath the city itself. So there's probably like a second city beneath this one.
I like the sound of a second city.
Eslin, you've been here before.
I have question mark. Okay.
One of you had to have been. You've been here before. You've been here on inquisitive business before you were sent to fetch a bounty of a thief that had stolen religious artifacts dedicated to Serenray. You apprehended him here with the help of a number of temple guards and were able to bring him to justice at the main temple of Serenray, which you took him back to on the ship. So you're relatively familiar with some of the streets here. You were only here a few days, and a lot of that was spent running. But you kind of are a little bit more aware of how the city is laid out and the kinds of things that you can expect here. So you'll probably be less surprised by some of the goods on offer here.
Okay, and then kind of would I be able then to point out different things though? Like I barely probably notice things because chasing down dude who offended my deity.
Yeah, so after apprehending him or whilst gathering information, you probably would have located one or two good taverns. You know where the main temple of Serenray is in the city. You know where the entrance to some of the underground network is here, having investigated that for signs of the thief, and you know where the artisan storage warehouse district is, which is where your thief was hiding when you came through here.
Okay, good to know.
I want a drink.
And then can I suggest, I guess, to the group one of the like main taverns, I guess I came across, I guess one of the better ones, and we can at least sit there, regroup, and try to figure out what we're gonna do. Because I think eventually Eslin does want to go visit the temple, only because she might be able to gather information from there too.
Yep. Okay, so your memory leads you a little astray. You go the scenic route round to the temple, the tavern that you remember. It's within sight of the Temple of Serenray, but once you've kind of headed there and you can see the temple in the distance, and you kind of go, oh, I remember this, and you kind of walk up a large kind of open thoroughfare where there are a number of street vendors, mostly selling food, up this stretch to pilgrims that have come to pray, or people that are kind of dealing business with the temples themselves. There's the Temple of Serenray. There is also a smaller temple to Selesna next door. Selesna is the goddess of like art and beauty, and there's a number of taverns kind of clustered among kind of this area as well. You kind of get the sense that a lot of the priests and clergy that work in Araghest are maybe a little bit lax on some of their stricter rules about drinking and celibacy and that sort of thing.
So they're fun priests.
They are they're a little bit more like Friar Tuck than some.
Yeah.
Fun priests. That's
Fun
what
priests.
I said.
But yeah, there are a number of temples to various other different gods up here. There isn't a temple to Iamede, mostly because this city has a little bit of a problem with the concept of justice. Most justice that's mete out in this city tends to be very swift and at the hands of creditors. So having a temple to Iamede probably isn't the smartest thing in this area. But that said, Serenray does have one, and Desna does have one as well. The tavern that you lead them to is the Yawning Dragon, and is quite a clean establishment. Seems to be frequented mostly by the clergy of Serenray, so there's a lot of kind of very classy drinks written on the menu above the bar. Most of the tables are clean. There appears to be kind of an elderly halfling bard just kind of tinkling away, noodling away on his little lute in the corner. Very pleasing melody. And a number of kind of tables with clusters of scholars or clergymen kind of sat around discussing things, looking very serious. And behind the bar is a very cheerful looking human woman in her mid-50s who greets you. Seems a little surprised to see a band of adventurers come in. She probably might have been expecting you to head to one of the taverns nearer the docks, but she greets you nonetheless and offers you a drink.
I'm going to take her up on that. I would like to inquire as to whether or not any of your drinks have fruit juice in them, and if they do they have umbrellas?
She kind of snaps her fingers and goes, "I have just the thing," and she fiddles about with some bottles, some of which have got kind of glass. They're blown glass bottles at the back, with twists or bubbles in them in some ways, with elaborate swan necks and things. And she produces this glass, this bell-shaped glass that is almost the same size as your head, and
Yes.
produces this beautiful sunset orange drink, and perches a little tiny paper umbrella on the edge, and then sits a whole pineapple in the top.
I think I really like you. How much for this wonderful concoction?
She says, "All the cocktails of 1 gold each."
I will gladly hand you a gold piece.
You kind of take this cup and you like toddle your way to the nearest table. Like you have to use both hands to lift the thing.
I also had to take a sip before I stepped so it didn't slosh.
Yeah, because the pineapple's kind of floating on the top there, bobbing.
It was more of a gulp than a sip, but it's okay.
It burns
I'm
like
fine
it
now.
burns like fire, but in a good way.
I'm perfectly okay with this. Okay,
the rest of you are
I'm
kind
sitting.
of
Probably not going to
watching
stand for a while.
this parade with Click kind of heading back towards his seat with a drink nearly as big as he is.
Have I mentioned that my ears are starting to hurt from my smile?
So do you need to know anything in particular, or are you looking for rumours or lodgings, or what do you want from this tavern here?
I think this is just my opinion. I think we need to maybe take a day and see if we can assess what the underground is doing here. If we are in information gathering mode at the tavern, then maybe we can use it to our advantage when traveling further north.
Okay, so here's how this might work. If some of you want to go out onto the streets and just listen to what people are saying, then we can do separate roles for that. If you want to try and engage people in the conversation at the tavern and see what people are talking about, what the gossip on the town is, then that's another option. Just walking the street is a perfectly viable way to gather information. You don't really have any contacts here, apart from Alaron, who does still have the familial business here. Eslin might be able to gather information at the temple.
I was thinking about just maybe like looking for people who seem either dodgy or, kind of quiet.
That's
and
the
then
whole town.
Yeah, this
buying-
Araghest, you've just described 90% of its inhabitants.
I was going to say I saw about 433 on the way here. It might have been 434.
Also, as a word of advice for your GM, if you, as fresh-faced young adventurers, start kind of going up to people who seem dodgy in the street and saying, "Say, what's the underground up to these days?" you're going to end up with a knife in your gut. And you may not be awake when it happens.
I was thinking
and
more.
Then you're back.
You were thinking more
Like just look for a group and buy them around.
Okay, that's something that you can definitely do in the tavern themselves. Like you said, this seems to be like a very scholarly. This is the kind of place where people do lunch.
This is also the kind of place where they serve drinks with umbrellas.
So the information you garner here would be a little different than the information you might garner somewhere else in the town. If you kind of imagine the kind of clientele that would be frequenting different places in the city, people tend to talk when they think people aren't paying attention to them. So you may find stuff on the street. You may find different clientele at different establishments. The local law enforcement might be a source of information. The local clergy might be. There's a good chance that one or two of the temple guards that Eslin worked with before are still in the city. There's a good chance that Alaron's family's employees would know kind of rumours. There's lots of different options available to you here. You don't necessarily have to stay together either. This is one situation in which you can probably cover more ground individually.
Well, since Click has the drink to end all drinks, and we're going to be here a while.
Not as long as you think. I may have to pee soon, though.
Oh, don't break the seal, dude.
Yeah, go. Hold it.
I honestly, Spot looks like he could also probably find a spot later. So
Spot has rolled onto his back under the table, and every time you slush a little of the drink over, he's just like lolling his tongue out to catch it as it drops off the table.
He already knows what he likes. What can I say?
Then maybe this is the hub and we all just kind of break off like to our own respective areas.
I am perfectly okay sitting here for a while, and then maybe a little bit later, I could go out and find some more of my own race and talk to them, because I mean, what's more new than a strange gnome leading a warg around talking to other gnomes?
So
It'll be fun.
you do know, as a gnome, you do know that uh, a lot of your race are artisans of some kind of various different kinds, and that most hubs of civilization tend to have a gnomish enclave or quarter of some kind, because gnomes don't
Yep.
always mix too well with bigger folk, and they tend to unsettle bigger folk. They tend to stick with their own kind, so you always end up with a community of some kind. And they shouldn't be too hard
Yes.
to track down. Just watch for explosions and loud arguments.
And honestly, one of the other things you could usually identify is some interesting color combinations on the doors.
Yes,
Wow.
they
I
will
mean, that's
they
yeah.
will always
Mhm.
decorate their own community with very distinctive patterns and colours and stuff. So they shouldn't be too hard to track down. That's
And
certainly
we also
something that you
don't
can
tend to
do.
match.
No. So all right. So click. We'll try that. Anybody else?
I don't know if any of us should go alone. That we should at least go in twos or threes.
Spot's gonna come with me.
Oh my god.
How about this? Here's a good idea. This place looks very nice, and I very, very like the. Uh, what is this drink again? Anyway, yes, I like this quite a bit. We should stay here.
I'm
I think
staying with Click.
here is staying is good. We like this place. It's clean. It's very clean.
Okay.
I will stay with the little man and the big dog,
Okay.
just to keep an eye on
Alright.
things.
Spot. His name is
Spot.
Spot. Thank you.
Anybody else got any ideas or leads they want to follow?
I think
I
I'll
definitely
walk.
wanna-
Go ahead, Al.
I was gonna say, I was definitely gonna go to the temple,
Mhm.
just because. I mean, it's been a while since I've actually had like time to actually pray for my deity, so definitely do that. A mix of seeing if there are any guards that I know that are still around. That way, I can go ahead and utilize that particular resource.
Okay. Okay, so you're off to the temple. Araghest. Okay. Okay. Anybody else?
I think I'm gonna roam the streets for a little bit and then return back to the bar. Maybe I can overhear, eavesdrop. It's going to be tough because I'm divine good, so I don't want to necessarily be like an undercover guy where I'm going to try
No,
to infiltrate the drug.
Like in one evening. They'll just
Right.
infiltrate the drugs.
I don't want you triple up for king. Yeah, don't do that.
I just love the idea of you coming back.
Anybody
and
else
so guys,
wanna help me
I
with this
run
drink?
a drugs cartel now. Like you've been gone 3 hours. Okay, so you're gonna walk the streets. Rin.
Don't you mean I'll rinfiltrate the drug cartel?
Hey, there are no storm clouds. Don't make me create them. All right,
Oh no.
Alaron.
I'll go for a walk back towards the docks.
Okay.
I figure if the warehouse district shouldn't be too far from the docks, so they don't have to unload everything and walk it across half the city. So it's probably nearby. So I'll head that way.
Are you looking for anything in particular?
I'm gonna just walk around, keep an eye open for any sort of family crest, or if I can spot the address, like
Okay.
any marker for the address.
All right. Okay, so you are on the lookout for anything you can see, plus family address. Should that become what's it? Have I forgotten anything? Anybody?
And hats. Yep, look, my hat.
Hats.
Thank you.
Funny thing, gnomes actually communicate with each other better when they're wasted. Okay. Alright, let's
Because we don't always like each other.
No. Let's go, Esselin, let's go with you first. Alright, so you kind of wave bye to the others and head across the square to the Temple of Serenray. It's not by far not the most impressive or biggest or beautifulest temple that you've ever seen to Serenray, but it is functional. The priests there are very dedicated. You know it is the center of healing for all of the city itself. So it kind of comes attached to a small kind of hospital. It's a little more than a triage center since there's not enough room for anything like convalescence or anything, but if anybody gets injured badly, they tend to come to this place. You are welcomed because the doors are always open. You can see various people coming and going. There's no kind of checking at the door or anything, as is usual at a Temple of Serenray. Inside, it's a huge golden dome that is covering the large statue of Serenray herself in the center, stood in the pool that is commonly thought to kind of be her tears. There's 3 or 4 glass panels in the roof to allow the sunshine in, and everywhere is kind of polished sandstone so that it's relatively cool inside the temple itself. There are a number of priests praying in various different places in the temple. There's plenty of room for you to do so should you wish to do that. And there are a number of doors leading off to various other parts of the temple as well, one of which being towards the barracks of the temple guard.
Okay, I think what I'm going to do first is definitely kind of join in the prayer and kind of asking for clarity and kind of more of an internal healing, not necessarily like physically.
Sure.
And then kind of from there, well, I need to roll perception to kind of see like if there's any of like the guards and things around besides, like I know we mentioned the priests.
Okay,
I'm to
so
see if anyone else.
yeah, let's make a perception roll and we'll apply it to your kind of exploration of the temple. Nice. Okay, so yeah, you recognize some of the faces of some of the priests. Like you weren't here for very long, but a couple of the priests are sufficiently charismatic enough that you can you remember having talk about some stuff with him. You know him. As you wander through the barracks, you're kind of watching into the armory room, into the kind of common room, into the kind of the barracksy kind of place where all the guards are kind of all their stuff is kept in all their beds and things. Nobody stops you. You do have the emblazoned symbol of Serenray on your kind of overcoat, and everybody recognizes you for what you are, given that you're in kind of your home environment, which is an Inquisitor. And so nobody kind of stops you in your tracks or anything. And in the corner of the common room, sat reading at a table is a youngish kind of mid-30s maybe man with a very very well kept beard, who's kind of half out of his armor. His kind of big heavy breastplate is like slung over the chair next to him, but he's still wearing his greaves and his helmet's on the table beside him. You recognize him as Omiran, who was one of the guards who helped ferry your original quarry back on the ship to face justice in your homeland. He has clearly returned back to his own temple, and he is currently holding the crest on his helmet indicates that he has been promoted to head of the Temple Watch.
And then you said he was reading a book?
He's just kind of sat in the common room reading a book.
Okay, well, Aslan's definitely gonna approach him and kind of in her own kind of, I don't even know how to describe her voice, just to be like, so, got your face in a book again, do we?
Amaran looks up, and like he's almost on his feet the second you started speaking. Like his book slams shut, and he kind of gathers you up in this massive bear hug, and he's like, "Aslan, my God, it's good to see you."
And she's gonna be like, oh, well, it's good to see you too. At least this time I won't be running around the city, hopefully, like I've lost my mind. Like, how are you?
He starts laughing, and he's like, "Oh, I remember that time you nearly fell off the roof, and then, yeah, that's good times, good times." I'm good. I'm good. Got the old promotion, and he kind of taps his helmet and looks more than a little bit proud of himself. Like it was clearly quite a fresh promotion. And you kind of taking a second look at the helmet, you can kind of see how polished it is, how very proud he must be of the whole thing. And he's beaming, like this huge kind of cheeky, boyish smile creeping across his face.
And she's just gonna giggle and be like, well, considering what we went through to go ahead and apprehend the last individual together, it's definitely well deserved for you.
He kind of grins and then realizes that he's supposed to be humble. Like Zeren Ray is not known for her arrogance, and so yeah. Well, you know, like I try to live up to the role, of course, and that he kind of sits back down and gestures for you to join him at the table. So, what brings you back? You say you're not herring through the city again. What's brought you back in this direction?
Well, I'm traveling with a new group for the moment, and we're just trying to, of course, do the usual thing. And of course, I saw the temple, and I was like, you know what, I need to at least have some time with Sarah and Ray. So just kind of refamiliarizing myself because I realized as I was trying to find the local tavern that's not too far from here, I don't remember where anything is here except for the temple.
He grins and he's like, well, you know, even if you did remember, that's not to say that it would be in the same place. You know, Araghest likes to rebuild itself on a near constant basis. You know, we find one entrance to the rat holes, they plug it up and open up another one. He looks a little bit serious for a moment and kind of moves the book kind of on the table, like slightly restlessly, and sighs and sort of says, "Well, if you're looking for work, then the aforementioned rats might be a good thing to chase down. Though Saren Ray knows it's work beneath you, but we've got some real shit on our hands. I'm not gonna lie."
And she's definitely, of course, going to kind of poke the bear and be like, what sort of trouble are we talking about? For you to have that sort of a face lets me know that it's very, very serious.
He steeples his fingers and kind of rests his chin on them and just kind of sighs. He says, I don't know. I don't know where they're getting it from, but peace is spreading through the city like wildfire. We every time we shut down a ring, every time we find a smuggler's ship, every time we take cargo before it leaves the city, we find another nest of the fuckers. Like, it is getting ridiculous. Peacewort doesn't even grow this fast. Like, I don't know where they're getting it from. But I do have a number of leads to find another couple of nests if you fancy going sticking that fancy sword in some drug smuggling bastards' gut, then, well, you know that we'll support you in that.
And then out of character, is this the same drug that was mentioned previously that the other, so it is all connected then?
Yeah, it's all connected. Peace Wort is a hallucinogenic drug that incites violent outbursts when people just start taking it. It's a little bit like a stimulant. It makes people feel like they can do anything, and will also make them hallucinate things in the people around them. So often it is responsible for starting fights and stuff. It's as addictive as any other kind of narcotic substance. It doesn't grow very quickly, and hence it's never really been a huge problem before. Once someone's been taking it for a while, they become completely lethargic, completely dependent on it, and they are completely suggestible and compliant. They're almost like kind of zombies once they're kind of taking it full time. Its kind of street name is Peace, because it makes people peaceful, basically. Like after the initial violent outbursts.
Okay, well, she's definitely gonna take all this information to heart because I know that's kind of like in a way secondary to the primary, and she's gonna let him know that she'll definitely take the information and take it back to her group because that was part of our initial kind of, it was like a more secondary aspect of our current mission, and that potentially once we go ahead and complete what we're I guess her current bounty, or she'll explain it to him, that she'll definitely revisit him and she'll take any information that she can in regards to it, because if it's disrupting, you know, the temple in Saren Ray, she wants to be rid of it. It's kind of second nature to her.
So the healing priests are overwhelmed with injuries either resulting from fights started by new victims, or by family members desperate to cure victims of their peaceful state. So it is absolutely disrupting the temple. He scribbles down an address. It is he says that their intelligence has suggested that the shop at the address, which is like a silks shop, is a front for one of the drug smuggling rings they were hoping to bust soon, but haven't got the manpower to do so. He scribbles that address down and gives it to you, and he's like, "Well, we won't get to it for a few days. If you feel like busting some heads, then if we get there and it's empty, I'm not gonna complain. Know what I mean?"
She's just gonna laugh and I'm like, "Of course, you need to know how I operate."
He's like, "Yep. You know, sometimes there isn't even anything for our coroner to clean up."
And again, she's gonna laugh and be like, "You say that this is such a bad thing. At least I clean up my mess."
He like laughs heartily, and he kind of stands up. He puts his helmet on and kind of slings his breastplate over his arm. He's like, "Right, well, I've got real work to do, so it's good to see you again."
And she's gonna, you know, kind of do the, you know, fingers to eyebrow point thingy, be like, "Good to see you as well as always." And she's like, "I'll be in town for a little bit, so I may have to call upon you."
He nods. He's like, "Okay, well, you know where I am. Like, I can't leave here now." And he kind of taps the little crest of the city, the head of the watch, kind of on his crest, and he's like, "I got shit to do," and like grins again and kind of walks off out of the room. Cool. All right. Is there anything else you want to do in this temple?
I think for the moment I might be done, but it may be one of those I may revisit it later
Sure.
to see if there's like a different group about. But I may end up going in the direction of wherever Alaron is,
Okay.
since I'm kind of done at least in the temple. So.
With your experience, you can track Alaron easily.
Oh yeah, I got tracking.
So he is not hard to find. Speaking of which,
I'm
Alaron,
a ginger in the desert.
Yeah,
Yes,
he's
yes.
not even wearing a hat. Like, Click stole it. It's fine. Right. You are making your way down to the docks. You look every inch of the tourist. You have the little scrap of paper with your address scribbled down on it, and you've got it in front of you. You know, like tourists do with Google Maps in front of them. And you're kind of looking up at each street name as you go past, and bumping into the occasional kind of half orc who glares at you and growls. And everywhere is noise. Everywhere there's people shouting in your face about wanting to sell you tat. There's smells everywhere of kind of industrial waste and food and smoke, and you can still smell the sea from where you are. And it's like a massive stimulation overload. However, roll perception.
18.
Nice. Okay. You do notice Eslin tracking you. She's just kind of she's watching at the moment. She isn't kind of caught up with you, but you do kind of spot her kind of stalking you from a few streets back. Do you want to call her on it, or do you want to ignore her?
I'll just pretend I don't see her, but it's nice to know that I have the backup.
Okay. Yeah. So eventually you make it back down to the docks. You kind of took a bit of a winding route down there. But you notice that there is a similarity of the address name as some of the street names down here. Clearly they've all been named after seabirds. And you have a name that's similar to albatross. And you think maybe it might be in this kind of district, which would link, because you see one or two different kind of storage warehouses, people loading things straight from the ships themselves on winches straight into the warehouses from the front of the dock. So you kind of dodge down a couple of different streets until you see your family crest. It's a little dusty, and it's certainly not the most impressive building in the street. But it's quite smart. It's got a freshly painted door, and above the door it kind of says operating offices, and your family crest above that.
All right, I will. I'm just gonna walk in. I'm not gonna knock or anything. I'm just gonna walk right in.
All right. So you just walk in. A little bell tinkles over the door. And an elderly halfling man kind of looks up from his paperwork. He's wearing very thick, round spectacles, and his hands are completely ink stained as he kind of scratches away with his krill. He kind of peers at you, and it's clear that his eyes are taking a moment to adjust from the bright light that you just kind of spilled into the room. All he can really see is a silhouette, so he's just like, "Yes! What do you want?"
I'm looking for information, and I think you can provide it for me.
He takes his spectacles off, he puts it down, and walks. He kind of stands up from the table. He only really comes up to about your chest, but he kind of stands up and kind of walks around you and shuts the door to kind of shut out the light, and kind of peers at you. And he goes, "Is that a threat, boy?"
Who are you calling boy, old man?
He takes your lapel and kind of holds you down slightly and peers into your face. And he's like, "Ah! Yeah, well, the nose is the same. Not surprised that you're going to talk to me like that. Your father's exactly the same. What do you want?"
Looking for the address to the family residence.
He laughs and he's like, "Oh, if it can be called that. I mean, we have our own lodgings, of course." And he kind of scrabbles around in the paperwork on his desk, like it's mountains of the stuff. Like he's clearly got invoices. There's an out tray, or there was once. Now there's just like a massive stack of papers and possibly a small tray at the bottom. And he shovels stuff around and then kind of pulls out a small wooden box from under a pile of paperwork. And as you watch, you slowly react, not quite fast enough to stop a whole stack of papers just sliding down to the floor from where it was kind of perched on top of this box. He doesn't seem to react, he doesn't seem to notice. He just hands you this small box and scribbles something down on a piece of paper and hands it to you. He goes, "Go on, you're in my way. Out, out."
Thanks for the time, old timer. And then I just walk out.
Inside the little box is a very large iron key and the address of your family residence, not far from here. There's a small little. He's even taken a moment to just kind of scribble a little, like, mini street map with an arrow. And how to get there. Are you gonna go straight there?
I'll pocket the note and the key, and I'll take a little stroll around the docks. Keep my eyes and ears open for anything interesting.
Okay. Roll 2 rolls for perception.
Zoe, at this point, could Eslin totally just sneak up on him at this point?
What you gonna do? 18 and 10. Alright. What you gonna do? You gonna surprise him? I love surprising him.
Absolutely. Like, he's usually just gonna pop out of, like, almost like jumping out of a tree and just landing next to him, like, almost like a cat, like, perfectly standing, to be like, "Hi."
Zone. You got jump.
Yeah, Eslin totally said hi to you. I landed in front of you, and I'm about to bop you in the nose.
And I go for my sword.
And of course, she easily, like, is getting ready to block him in case he tries to use it. And be like, "Really?"
I look behind me, and I was like, "Weren't you just? You were 3 streets there."
And then she just
I found
looks
the
at
house.
him. Is almost just gonna look at him and just be like, "You forget what my job really is. I'm trained to be sneaky." And then she'll
Adjust
say,
my
"Congrats on
glasses."
finding the house."
Yes, thank you. Did you find anything at the temple?
Well, I did run into one of the guards from the last time I was here, and actually he's now head of the watch, which shall be fairly interesting. But I did find out that the drug that was mentioned before we got to this town is literally a growing problem. So it is in this town as well. So perhaps after we finish with all of your family affairs and everything, that may be something we want to revisit.
Oh, of course, of course. How does anything grow here? We're in a desert.
You would be surprised the things that people can do when they want something.
That's fair. How fast of a growing problem are we talking about?
To the point where, from what I was able to ascertain, that even with them stopping it from coming in, out, and trying to find multiple little hidey holes where it might be, it keeps growing. And it's to the point where my temple is almost being overrun by the number of people who are being injured by those who are on the drug.
I may have a theory about that.
Do you?
I believe we're dealing with a druid. How else could you keep a plant growing as fast as that while constantly moving its location so you don't get spotted?
That is actually fairly good theory.
Let's go stab some druids. Come on, let's go.
She's just gonna be like, "Alright, well, somebody has to keep you from blowing up everything."
Alright. So you head down to the docks. sneakily, not so sneakily, looking out for druids, I guess. You don't spot any obvious druids. No, like, do you have like a idea in mind of what like a stereotypical druid looks like, with like leafy robes and there's nothing.
Leafy robes, motherfuckers eating bark.
There's none of that here. Like
Flowers
just...
growing out of very odd places.
You've been reading too many books. Okay, so I had some rumors and stuff in here. Okay, so as you walk the docks, it's sort of entering kind of late afternoon. Generally what you're hearing is a lot of kind of dock talk. There's a lot of nautical language being back and forth. There's banter between workmates. There's the odd kind of argument. There's various different kind of languages being spoken. Some you speak, some you don't. But as you're kind of nearing one crossroads, ready to decide whether to carry on or turn left, a couple walk past you, possibly brother and sister. They don't appear to be romantically involved, but the woman has clearly been crying, and the man seems to be sort of I don't know that word. Consoling her. Conciliatory? What am I reaching for here?
Conciliatory.
There we go. That's what. Thank you. Yeah, and she is talking about not knowing what could have happened. Do you decide to follow her?
I look at Eslin and like nudge my head over in their direction. Like, do you want to go follow them?
She's just gonna look at him. Sure, I can be like, what else are we gonna do?
Something about the way they're talking seems a little off. And so roll stealth. Both of you. This will be fun for Alaron. Okay.
You rolled higher than I did. Cry.
I vanish into the crowd, red hair and sunburnt skin and all.
You just look like another weary traveller, really. And they're moving through a crowd. I mean, it doesn't appear that they're talking about anything secretively. But you catch the gist of their conversation that her younger sister, or maybe both their younger sister, you can't quite work out their relationship, has gone missing. Went out one day to fetch bread or some form of food, and just didn't return. Has been kidnapped maybe, but it's been 3 days. And there has been no sign of her, nor any ransom note of any kind. They have no idea where their sister has gone. The girl appears very upset about it. The man, while upset, looks concerned and even slightly angry maybe, until he says, I wish the watch would figure out what's happening to these people.
People. Multiple. Alright, I drop back to where Eslin is. Wait, she's like right next to me?
Yeah, you're together.
Did you hear that? People going missing?
She's just gonna nod and kind of stay quiet, so listening to him while still trying to catch what the two were saying as well.
They change the subject of the conversation onto kind of their destination and getting dinner and maybe contacting the watch and seeing if they've heard anything else, and kind of move on to kind of more mundane things.
Okay, so it's definitely she's gonna look to Alaron and be like, I'll definitely have to ask the head of the watch next time I see him about this to try to gather some more information, at least from their side, about what's being done and what leads they have there. And I'm wondering if it's actually linked to this drug that's flowing throughout the city.
Hmm.
I actually think it's potentially with our little monster hunt, if you want to call it that. A lot of
That
people walking around here. Lots of flesh to be used.
very valid point.
Alright, I'm gonna leave you two there. Click and Bree. Is Click
Yeah.
too inebriated to go investigating gnomes?
Nope.
All right.
Nope. I'm perfect.
Great. Okay. Bree, you just about managed to haul him up, stepping over Spot. And Spot takes a little bit more encouragement. Like, Spot's really comfy. And you're just like, come on, boy. Come on. Like, he kind of raises his head, just kind of looks at you. And you're like, alright, fine, fuck it. You stay there then. And then when he realizes he's going to be left behind, he kind of lopes out after you.
Spot, stay. See, look, he's
No.
Yeah, he likes me.
Yeah, he considers it for a moment, but then realizes that like he doesn't know anybody else in the tavern, and like none of the rest of the party are around. So he's like, nope, and he like lopes after you.
Good boy.
Oh god.
Never trust a stranger.
Um, you know that gnomes tend to like to build their enclaves quite high. There's a hill, so that seems as good a place as any to kind of head towards. So you head off in that direction. And you realize that your gut kind of instinct is correct. It's not too long before you start seeing the prayer flags and geometrically colourful patterns painted on doorways and archways. The sandstone has been dyed in various different places to give wildly clashing colours to the columns and banners that are kind of strewn about this area. There's also kind of the clanking of anvils and kind of bobbling cauldrons in various places. As you kind of look through doorways, you can kind of see little workshops with people kind of peeking through little glass, tiny little glass I'm gonna call them telescopes, but they're not little eyepieces, as they make like ridiculously intricate little clockwork things.
Is a loop.
It's a loop.
Loop.
Oh, I didn't know that.
They're handy. I used to play with one. They're yeah, when I was picking. Yes, lock picking. There we go. Yes. It's fun.
And there you are, stood in the middle of this kind of gnomish enclave. Bree, you are the only human there. You spot an elf kind of briskly walking from one end to the other, with a package under one arm, clearly having concluded business. But apart from that, everybody around you is shorter than you. Like, there's one or two dwarves engaged in some kind of work at one of the workshops, but mostly this area is kind of inhabited by gnomes.
I am so tall.
My people.
Mostly you're being ignored though, like unless you have anything particular to do here. Like, they're not gonna pay you much mind. It's still quite busy, even though it's a small enclave.
I do have something to do. I questions, but yes. Oh, I need a tailor. There's got to be one here. Everybody likes tailors.
There are a number of tailors here. Yeah.
That one. It's the one across the street. No, not that one. That one. Let's go there.
All right. So you head towards the tailors, and there is
next door.
The
that
other
one.
tailors.
Thank you.
And there is a gnomish girl, quite young. shock of pink hair, kind of stood on a chair around a tailor's dummy, putting the final touches on a very handsome doublet, clearly designed for an elvish man, in kind of forest colours. Like pins sticking out of her mouth, and kind of a huge utility belt with tape and measuring tools and needle packets and stuff kind of spilling out everywhere. You can't see the walls of the shop. There's just rolls of fabric and hanging examples of her work, some of which is no mission design and therefore has hilariously unmatched colours and massive stripes of reds and golds and pinks and oranges all kind of jumbled up together. Bria honestly gives you a little bit of a headache.
Yeah, too much stimulation. Wow. I kind of push Click a little more into the room to go talk to her.
Good afternoon. My name is Clicksane, not Floor. You can call me Click, though. It's a mouthful, I know. I have 2 items that I would like to inquire about having altered. Is that something that you can do off of my measurements, or do you... How's this go? I haven't done this in a long time.
She one by one she kind of takes the pins out of her mouth and kind of pins them into various parts of her own kind of robe, and she turns to look at you, and she kind of, this huge grin kind of comes across her face. She's like, well, sure. And she kind of jumps down from the chair and it's like, what can I do for you?
I'm in possession of a lovely silk cloak in a doublet, also of silk, that I would like altered so it doesn't drag the floor. It's for big people, but it's gorgeous fabric. I feel that a true artist needs to work with it. I thought about altering it, and that was only about half a second. I decided.
She nods very sagely.
Can you help?
So you show her the items, and she touches the fabric. She's like, I see what you mean. This is very, very fine work. She takes your measurements almost like she didn't ask. She just kind of starts strapping you up with like the tape and takes your measurements. It takes her all of about 20 seconds, and she's like, oh, I think I can help. You'll have to give me a couple of days though. I still have this fine doublet to complete for my current customer, but after that I don't have any work that is particularly pressing. If you could offer, say, 25 gold, I can have it done by tomorrow sunset.
It's not necessarily a rush, but I do... That is a fine outfit that you've created. That is wonderful. It's a little too monochromatic for me, but
she grins. She kind of touches all the foresty colours and she kind of strokes it slightly. She grins and turns it round on its little pedestal, and you just catch a flash of neon pink interior silk. She's like, it'll be covered with the black.
Oh,
she's just like,
I like you. You're smart.
I just roll my eyes.
Here's the thing. I like this lovely green cloak. Is it possible, as well as altering it, can you do something in that pink on the inside of my green cloak?
She spreads her hands and kind of just with one kick just opens a little cabinet that's to the side, and as it swings open, you can see where all the fabrics and things in the shop are all different, like a medley of different colours. There might be one roll of orange over one side and a little sheet of forest green on the other. She opens the cabinet and there is an entire 30, 40 entire 20-meter rolls of this pink satin stacked one on top of the other. It is exactly the same color as her hair. And she's like,
Oh,
everything I work on has at least one patch.
I'd like more than a patch. Um, what's your name?
Pixie.
Pleasure to meet you. If it would be possible to have about a third of the interior of the cloak done in that, so that if I spin, it flashes, but if I just open my arms, you don't see the color, I think that would be incredibly wonderful.
She pulls a little roll of kind of parchment out from her utility belt and makes a flourished note, and she's like, "Oh, I think we can manage something," and gives you like an incredibly unsubtle wink.
Now, for the second bit of business, um, I need a hat. Can you recommend a particular place to purchase such an item? Wink.
Do you say wink or do you do it?
No, I say wink.
Roll diplomacy.
Like that?
Alright, so she gives you a coy little smile and kind of touches one finger to her cheek, and without taking her eyes off you, reaches up and pulls a cord that's kind of hanging down from the ceiling. Because these are all buildings built for humans, so the gnomes have halved the buildings, so there's like a mezzanine floor straight above her. And she says as she's doing that, she says, "Now, why would I send you to one of my competitors?" And she pulls the cord, and a portion of the ceiling kind of drops down with like a winch. Kind of there's a ratcheting sound as it kind of all the way down, and there is about 40 wooden heads, and on each is perched a unique hat. And she says, "These are all custom pieces. But should you like any of the designs, I'm sure we can come to some sort of arrangement."
Click, you need to
An
marry her.
arrangement, you say?
She says, "Well,
I'm
it
sorry,
takes me
what
at
did
least
you
a
say?
week to make every hat."
A week, you say? I may be able to do that. And what would be the cost?
Oh, well, hats are a lot harder than doublets or cloaks.
Oh, absolutely.
They require structural integrity, or I mean, it really depends on how many secret compartments you require.
Oh my
No
goodness.
less than 4.
4 is a good number. A good number,
This
sir.
is
You have
so
a good
great.
eye. It would take a week and around 150 gold.
And how about, let me just ask, and forgive me if I overstep my bounds, but what would you be doing for your evening meal?
Oh my gosh. Just propose already.
Yes.
She looks warily at the wolf, the wog, and she's like, well, I don't have any plans at the moment, unless you care to change that. Click.
I, and Spot, this is Spot, sit, good boy, would like to take a stroll with you and possibly purchase some wavy hand gesture here food.
She agrees. Coyly, but she very definitely has succumbed to your charms. In fact, her face is beginning to match her hair color.
As far as our business arrangement here, would you care to take a down payment on the items I am requesting?
The pink immediately disappears, and she's like, "I knew I liked you."
Well, the like is mutual.
Such a charmer. Oh my god. Okay, so you have a date, which is not what I thought you were coming to Gnome Town for, but there you go. You have a date
I like to surprise people.
and a custom hat, possibly, and doublets and so on. Is there anything else that you want to do whilst you're in?
Well, now that I'm feeling comfortable,
Mhm.
um, I'd like to stop by uh, the nearest meeting place. I know there's got to be just sort of a hangout around here. There usually is.
So gnomes
just
often they usually congregate around a tree
yeah,
as
the
like a
corner or something. I don't
picnic,
know.
but there's no trees here. What they've done instead is there's a spire of stone that connects to part of the cavern wall above them. Not cavern, canyon. The canyon wall behind. They've wrapped it round with ribbons and flags, almost like a maypole. And you can
In
see
many colors, I
in
assume.
many colours, and there are cushions all around underneath it. Which is what they would normally do under a tree, so you can kind of see that that's kind of like the communal kind of place where people kind of hang out.
Well, I'd like to go over and grab a cushion
Mhm.
and see if there's anybody hanging out.
There are a number of groups. There are a number of groups of 5 or more, kind of sat excitedly talking to each other. There's a couple, clearly very much in love, in one place. There's a number of
Aw.
individuals that are working on projects or reading books or just sitting kind of relaxing. And there's a number of smaller groups kind of drinking. There's this area appears to be the front, almost like the front yard of what appears to be like a drinking establishment, but you know that generally gnomes don't run bars, so it's almost certainly like they've got a well and some moonshine that they keep stocked or whatever there, and it's kind of a free bar, almost like a community run thing.
Yes. How about I'm gonna plop down next to the guys taking a sip there
Mm-hmm.
and inquire with them as to whether or not they have any news and explain. Hey, I'm never been here before. Just kind of curious what's going on around here.
I'm gonna hang back and so as not to intimidate the whole
That's
town.
fine. Hey, you want to hold spot?
No.
Spot goes with you anyway.
Yeah.
He's like
He
Fine.
does what he
smelly
likes.
beast.
you kind of find a knee-height wall nearby in the shade, and you kind of sit there, and Spot kind of sits and leans on your legs, like heavy dogs do. Drools slightly on your knee.
Ew.
Hey, at least the drool isn't acidic.
That is true.
True.
Which couldn't be said for a lot of species of warg, so you're quite lucky, really. As you kind of sit down, as is gnomish custom, they all kind of scoot aside and make room for you. There's never any kind of social lubrication required, really, in these sorts of circumstances. Strangers are as welcome as old friends. Roll perception, though. Nice. Wow.
I have
All the
seen.
perception. You have seen everything. So, um, essentially, you don't say anything for a little while. They kind of carry on talking, and they include you in the conversation, and they're gossiping, as gnomes are wont to do. So you hear a lot of names kind of battered backwards and forwards, in the way that some people do at parties, where they assume you know everybody they know. So they're
Of
talking
course,
like
of
kind of,
course.
um, and you kind of get into the swing of the kind of flow back and forth, and people talking about who's done well in their shop this year, or this person is worried about losing their business because the landlord's rent's gone up, and various other bits and pieces. Until another gnome comes to join you. She sits down. She's an older lady. She kind of sits down and sighs and takes her gloves off and kind of wipes her face, and one of the other gnomes asks how Skelly's doing, and she kind of says, I don't know. She's beside herself with worry. The lad's not been gone a week, but has sent no word at all. It's not like him. Rudy's one for writing home if he's gone half a day. I mean, a week. Who can say where he's gone? Maybe he's gotten the taste for some adventure, wanderlust. Who knows? But she's inconsolable. I've taken her some food. I don't know what else we can do. As she kind of finishes up saying this, you notice that one of the gnomes, a guy about your age, with kind of bright blue hair, is looking at you with a slight look of bemusement.
Amusement or bemusement?
Bemusement.
Aha. Am I funny looking?
Are you asking him?
No, I'm just sort of announcing to the room. Am I funny looking? With a huge grin on my face.
They all kind of look like this is apropos of nothing. So they're like, no. I mean, yeah, but that's a good thing, right?
Yes, just checking. I'm going to address Mr. Bemusement and introduce myself and ask him why the long face.
He shakes your hand and he's just like, no, I could have. It's nothing. I could have sworn I knew your face. It's nothing. Don't worry. And then it's all
I
gone.
haven't known my face in a long time, so that's more than I've ever seen. Pleasure to make your acquaintance.
He kind
What
of
did you
shakes
say
your
your
hand.
name was?
He grins. His name's I don't have a name for him. He's gnome number 3. Let's give him a name. Let's call him Briffin.
Nice to meet you.
His face is all smiles again. He just seems to have shaken off whatever it was. One of the other gnomes makes a joke about the guy having travelled halfway across the world, and so he's probably seen every gnome there is, and they all laugh and go back to talking about kind of local business.
Huh. Well, I'm traveling. Was traveling. I'm not traveling now. I have traveled. I'm going to sit down again.
Griffin's like, well, trade is as trade does, and shrugs.
I have no words to convey how much I liked that drink I had earlier.
Do you need another one?
No, I'm well lubricated.
Well, I'm going to leave you with your new gnomish friends. And
Yes, they might actually have something to say eventually.
they might have something to say. They've said. You've got a missing
Yes.
gnome and a half remembered
Yes.
face.
Yes.
Rin, where are you? What are you up to?
Well, I got to ask a question before we progress my storyline.
Sure.
I'm good, but if I do bad things, is inadvertently, like unintentionally, do I lose my status as good?
No. No, you'd have to. You need to stop worrying about your alignment so much. You really have to do something intentionally evil.
Gotcha.
And
Okay.
numerous times in order to lose your alignment.
Well, I think my enthusiasm for trying to find out more from the town took me down an alley that I'm unfamiliar with. But I also looked for something that I love the heat, by the way, but I also love the humid heat. And so I inadvertently, I'd like to explore the alley and specifically the source of the steam, which is like coming from the underground, i.e., the underground drug area. Do you see where I'm going with that?
Sure. So what actually happens is this. Roll perception for me. So what actually happens is this. You walk down an alley and it's a dead end. No. You wander. No real kind of guidance to where you're going, no real plan. You just kind of want to get a feel for the city, the city's people, how they move, what they talk about, and so on. And you hear lots of gossip. You hear people talking about trade, people talking about day-to-day stuff. You do spot more than one drug addict on the streets. People tend to move around them like water. But they appear just as they did in Clearwater, kind of vacant, sort of zombie-like, just staring into space. You follow a number of vents that appear to be like venting in a line down one particular street, and you realize that you're in a street where these aren't shop fronts. You're in an industrial area, basically. There's a lot of kind of metal work. There's a lot of scrap metal kind of up against the walls of the buildings here. There's a lot of men in very heavy leather aprons. There's more than a few dwarves here. And at the end of this alley is a large semicircular archway set with big heavy sandstone blocks. And there are dwarves coming in and out of this entrance. Curious, you decide to explore, and you find yourself walking down a sloping walkway that heads seemingly into the side of the canyon itself, and find yourself in a dimly lit by torchlight shantytown, essentially. There are wooden buildings here built into the rock face and into the opened up cavern system beneath the city. And where the steam vents are, you can see workshops. And all manner of things are being made in these workshops, from horseshoes to industrial machinery, to weapons, to intricate clockwork parts, like little tiny cogs, right up to massive water wheels from kind of grinding stone. You finally found the river appears to be flowing from underground through this shanty town, and there are various water wheels and stuff redirecting that water into various workshops straight off the river itself. There are more victims of peace addiction down here than there are above ground. But you could wander down here for miles. It's easily as big as the city itself below here as it is above.
Seeing all this, I don't know, destitute environments and all of the drug addictions starting to make me angry. I don't know why, but I don't know. I can't breathe very good.
Mm-hmm.
And now I don't know where I am.
Are you lost?
Am I lost? Do I look out of place? Where's
You
everybody?
you look a little out of place. I mean, you're wearing the crest of Iomedae down here, the god of justice, and your armor is relatively new. You don't look like a workman, and you're quite young. You're also relatively clean cut. I mean, there's a lot of hair, a lot of body hair going on in this area of the world, and you don't fit that.
Yeah, why is
archetype at
everybody
all.
so hairy? It makes me angry.
Wow. Okay.
Well, no, I feel angry for no reason. Like I just want to punch the hairy people or something. I don't know. So unlike me.
So roll Constitution. Roll a Constitution check.
I'm so angry. I don't know what Constitution is. Diplomacy?
No, it should be under your core stats. You have dexterity checks or dexterity saves, Constitution saves, and will saves. Or is it dexterity or reflex? Reflex. Constitution. There we go. 22.
Nice.
You managed to get yourself under control from whatever it is that's influencing you down here.
Oh, I beat the drug.
You did.
Did I for real?
Mhm.
How do you get high on peas?
On peas, you have to eat a lot of peas. No, on peas you 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 have to ingest it. It has to be a willful act to take it, much the same as heroin. The vents
so you-
that are venting above into the air are the smoke from the workshops down here. There is a residual haze, if you like, from some of the drug processing, but you would really struggle to find the source of it just from. So basically, what you're walking around in is secondhand pot smoke down here. It's not a hard drug. Nor
it's contact high.
it's basically. And whilst it might do that to you and make you angry for no reason, it would probably do is alert you to the fact that something was wrong.
Yeah, I don't feel right. I want to ask for help. Where do I go? I don't know where I am.
So where you are basically is in the middle of the industrial underbelly right now. Around you are workshops, blacksmiths. You can roll. Let's see. Roll perception again. Let's see how you do on finding somebody who looks like they can help you. 8. Okay, so you are stood in between two workshops, one of which looks like a farrier. They are forging and flattening horseshoes, tack, other harnesses for bigger beasts of burden. And on the other side is a man beating out sheets of steel, by the looks of things, for things to be cut from. He's rolling it up into kind of almost like corrugated sheets. Both of them are dwarves. They don't seem to be talking to each other, and both of them are wearing very heavy industrial gear. You can either try one of these two, or you can move on somewhere else, see if you can find somebody else.
Blue steel.
Blue steel. Oh, I want him to do the blue steel look now. Alright, so you kind of wander into that workshop. And after a moment or two, you kind of catch the dwarf's eye, and he kind of puts his hammer down and kind of lifts his goggles. And when I say goggles, I mean these are like proper steampunk industrial, like sized, massive rings of copper around his eyes. Kind of lifts them up onto his head, and kind of puts one hand on his hip and looks at you expectantly.
Any thieves lately?
He laughs and kind of gestures to his sheet metal. He's like, "What would they steal? My steel?"
Aha. Well, Yes, but you beat me to the punch. So I guess you've proven your mettle.
Oh.
Um,
You
no,
fall into
seriously.
the lake of... Sorry. Go on.
Can I use diplomacy to figure out if he can provide me with more information about what's going on down here?
Use an insight check. Which would be sense motive. $19. Yeah, this is a guy that, he seems relatively open. His workshop front is on the main thoroughfare through this section of the shanty town. If he has seen anything, you might be able to convince him to tell you.
Well, let me tell you this, Mr. Dwarf, Mr. Steelman. I really enjoy your shop, and although you can see I'm very well armored and in no need for steel, I do have several people in my party, and we're newly exploring, headed north to into the canyon. And I'm wondering if you can point to other legitimate businesses in this area that might be worth my time, including yours.
Kind of cocks his head to one side. Roll diplomacy. One sec.
Uh-oh.
He cocks his head to one side and he puts his hammer down and folds his hands across his not insubstantial belly and looks at you. He says, I can see that you are well armored, but I think you're here for other reasons, are you not?
You may be right about that.
He kind of pokes his head out of the door into the street, checking no one's coming. He says, an adventurer, if I'm not mistaken. And he pokes your chest. He goes, and interested in justice. Well, justice is something that Araghest considers its own dominion. Not that that is how things should be. And he walks to the back of the workshop and he opens a small cabinet. And in the cabinet you can see two figures, two little tiny metal cast figures. One of which, statue of the goddess Serenray, and the other, a perfect statue of Iamide. Little tiny miniature family shrines just in his workshop. He says, I don't come from here. I come from my own dwarven homeland. But I gotta tell you, these people, they don't look after their own. And if you're a paladin of Iamide, I reckon you've got a lot of work to do in this city.
As a sign of solitude, I show him my driftwood icon, which I've carried with me from the country.
He nods in a kind of recognition that you haven't been coerced into your service and that you are following a chosen path, if you like. He says, see gangs, they bring people down here. Nobody down here looks too closely at them. Don't know any more than that, but if you're looking for work, if you're looking for something to bring justice down on, then I'd say they're They're not bringing people who want to be down here. Down here. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And he kind of shoos you. He's like, it's all the help I can be, boy. If you want weapons, and he kind of hooks a thumb up, and he's like, you want to get up to the surface again, head to one of the armory shops on the main row. And he kind of points round the corner, and you can see daylight heading down a shaft from the stairs around the corner.
Oh, help me find the exit. Thank you, sir.
He nods. He's like, I can tell a lost boy when I see one. And he kind of shuts the door of his workshop.
I do kind of look like Kiefer Sutherland. So I round the corner and ascend up to the main row and find myself near the armories. But I'm kind of squinting in the distance because now that daylight's returned, I think I see somebody.
Who do
I
you
think I see two people. Is that Elrond and Eslin? Down by the... Where are they?
They're heading up back into the city from the docks. So, yep, that is definitely possible.
I mean, I gathered the basic information, found out there's a whole underbelly. So
Yeah,
now I'm in the overbelly.
You are in the city proper now.
Right. Belly button, if you will.
The belly button. Yeah.
So I want to reunite with them and find out what they know.
Okay. Are you all heading back to the tavern now, the Yawning Dragon?
Yeah, that's where we last saw Bree and Click
Mm-hmm.
and Spot.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for not forgetting Spot.
Poor Spot.
Well, he's pretty big.
Yeah,
Kind of hard to do that.
Be a hard sell to forget him. Yep, that's cool. Everybody else coming back this way? Bree and Click, are you coming back to the Yawning Dragon too?
I'm going to make a quick stop and ask my new friend what time she would like for our stroll. But other than that, I am free to head back at this time.
So she suggests that you meet at sundown at a wonderful little restaurant not far from the Gnomish Quarter. Sells exotic food from the vibrant coastal cities named Olive Garden, just nearby the Gnomish Quarter.
I'm sorry, that's adorable. I agree.
I hear their
Do they
bottomless
have
salad is
breadsticks?
delicious.
Do they have breadsticks?
Absolutely, they have breadsticks. They're famed for their breadsticks, in fact. Cool. All right. So, that makes 2 and a bit hours. Are we comfortable leaving it there? Is there anything anybody burningly wishes to explore before we finish up today? Because I'm gonna need to go and have a nap soon.
Would I be able to find the my captain of the watch friend
Yep.
and kind of talk to him about the whole people missing thingy,
Sure.
and then kind of get grumpy at him for not mentioning this?
Yeah, that's fine. He's in the temple still. He's got his own office and everything. So you kind of head in there, and he's like sat at the table, kind of like signing off paperwork and stuff. His helmet's on a hook behind his chair.
What was his name again? So I'm gonna write it down or try to write it down somewhere.
His name is Omeran.
Not on the run?
Not on the run, no.
Yeah, so she's just gonna, knock on the door quietly, kind of stepping inside, waiting for him to look up.
He looks up and beams at your arrival. He's like, "Don't tell me you already managed to to clean out like 3 of our drug cartels, and now we have no drug problem, right?
She's just gonna laugh at him, being, no, no, not quite. Though I did find something in my usual adventures going around the town that I did want to go ahead and discuss with you.
He shrugs. He's like, "Of course you did. What? Hit me. Come on."
And she's just gonna kind of go from kind of having a smile to very serious face, and then just kind of, you know me, I tend to stick to the shadows and hear all sorts of things about what goes on in every town that I'm in. And I came across two individuals talking about how multiple people have gone missing. Do you care to elaborate?
His face also goes kind of extremely serious. He he sighs, and it's like the most serious you've ever seen him. Like he looks kind of very, very tired, and he's like, I wish that we could help these people. I don't know what's happening. Like, this isn't our jurisdiction. As you know, we are here to heal, and so we have taken it upon ourselves the mantle of this drug problem. He kind of gestures out, like, to the west slightly, and he says, "The watch at the Temple of Abadar have been investigating the disappearances, but honestly, we have no leads. Short of clearing out the entire Undercity, I don't know what we can do. People of all races, people of all wealths have gone missing. It's not an epidemic, but at least 10 in the last week. I don't know what they're doing with these people. I don't know why they're being taken. We don't even know who's taking them. There's rumors that it's a band of halflings, but I find that unlikely, don't you?" He shrugs and looks immeasurably sad.
All right, well, she's going to close the door because what she's going to say, she doesn't want anyone else to overhear, and she's going to actually take a seat in front of him. And of course, serious face is serious. And go, I believe these disappearances have to do with the main reason as to why I have come back to this town.
He raises an eyebrow and lets you carry on.
Needless to say, one of the members that I'm traveling with and we received, well, more so they received a bit of correspondence that leads to something very, very troubling that may be developing in the town. We were sent here to sort of find anything and everything that we can. So what I ask is that anything that you find or anything that just seems out of place, please find me in my group. We will be around. But it's one of those, if we can find the source of where these people are being taken, we may ultimately be able to find what I originally came here for. And you know me, I'm very resilient. I will find what I'm looking for.
He gives kind of a sad chuckle and goes, "Well, ain't that the truth?" He says, "Well, if I hear anything, I'll let you know. But I'm unlikely to be the one hearing anything. You may be able to convince Morpogo at the Temple of Abadar to share with him information. He's a little arrogant, but your status as an inquisitor may be enough to convince him. Just don't go stirring any trouble between us. The Council of Temples is a delicate balance, particularly here out in the wilderness."
Oh, isn't it always?
He kind of shrugs and gives you like a cheeky grin, like, "Not my problem. Like, I'm just the watchman."
Yeah, to that she's just gonna start laughing and then be like, cheer up. You just got this new promotion. You don't need to get any gray hair and wrinkles yet. And he's like, and mentions about catching her at the tavern sometime. She'll buy him a drink when he's not entirely too busy working.
Sure. So, for your information, Abadar is the god of cities, law, merchants, and wealth. Every city has a temple to Abadar. He tends to be an expansionist god. He wants to bring civilization to all reaches of the world. But all cities have some sort of dedication to his cause, if you like. Architects tend to also be priests of Abadar, if that makes sense. Like, they bring beauty and order to wilderness by creating civilization there. And it's entirely possible that the temple guard of Abadar has been investigating this since the city has no police force of its own.
Duly noted. Okay, so yeah, she's gonna make a mental note of this and bring it back to the group that we may need to speak with them, though she would probably advocate that she might not be the best person to do so.
In terms of mythology, you know that Abadar has strong alliance with Iamidi and Serenray, also Shaylin and Desna. So it shouldn't be too hard to gain audience and speak to this Morpurgo, but yeah, if he's an arrogant man, I mean that's a human failing. That's not a religious one.
So we'll have to add that for next time.
Yeah, cool. I'll make a note of that actually.
Who watches the Watchmen?
No one round here. Hang on, I'm just writing that down. Priest of Abadar.
What's my new friend's name?
Pixie.
Pixie.
Pixie?
Yeah.
As in like small flying
Yep.
thing? Okay, just making sure. I really don't want to forget that later.
Or say something different. You know what I mean. Right, Morpurgo.
Straight.
Okay, cool. Alright, do you wish to have any dealings with each other before before we conclude this evening?
I think I'm good.
Okay.
Do we regroup powwow? I guess wherever we all met back up.
Share all the information and stuff. Cool. Okay, so key things learned today. Disappearances are happening. They don't appear to be targeting any one particular group. The Temple of Abadar have been investigating the disappearances but don't appear to have any leads. There is in fact an undercity here. And anything else?
And Click has a date.
And Click has a date for some reason. That may or may not result in a hat.
Wait. What do you mean for some reason? There's always a reason for a date.
I'm not judging, dude. I'm not judging.
She's got pink hair.
I can't judge, so have I. It's not a thing. I'm gonna stop there. Alright, cool. I will see you guys soon. Let's have a look at the diary actually, because we are pushing close to stuff. I'm gonna stop recording here, but I will stay online. Thanks, guys.